Stop killing the children in Yemen!
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 Stop war in Yemen!
Stop war in Yemen!
Down Ben Salman!
Down Ben Salman!
Britain, home of the scone, the football fanatic, weather that simply can't make up its mind, and the long history of selling arms to Saudi Arabia. Let me explain. So it's not that simple, but the weapons being sold are being used in the war in Yemen. Yemen has been called one of the worst humanitarian crises that the world has ever seen. Around 22.2 million people are in need of some kind of humanitarian aid.
You know, most of the people in Yemen, they have a very nice feeling. They like very much people of the UK. But people are unhappy with the UK government because they are not supporting the peace. They are not supporting Yemeni people. They are always supporting money.
Well, nobody would suggest that the UK shouldn't do any trade with Saudi Arabia. The issue isn't about the UK having a relationship with Saudi Arabia. It's about the kind of relationship. Everybody wants to see the UK selling goods on the world stage and the UK having a positive global influence. We don't believe that selling weapons is a part of that. The reason for that, well, there's multiple reasons for that, but one of them is because Saudi Arabia has one of the most appalling human rights records anywhere in the world. The government is one of the most brutal, one of the most oppressive in the entire world, and it has waged a terrible war on Yemen. But it's not just about Yemen. Even if the war in Yemen was to end tomorrow, we would still be opposed to arms exports to Saudi Arabia. And the reason for that is because, in part, not just because of the deadly consequences they can have, but also because of the message they send. The message these arms exports send to the Saudi regime is one of uncritical support. It tells them that you are a good military ally, a good political ally, and the UK is entrusting you with the means to kill.
The war in Yemen is complex, with many different parties involved. Let me break it down for you. So the UK currently sends weapons to Saudi Arabia. And in return, the UK receives money. The weapons are then being used in the war in Yemen. The war has destroyed families, homes, and created an urgent need for humanitarian aid. The war in Yemen started in 2015 with a tribe known as the Houthis, who were against the government, President Hadi, for many reasons, including corruption. The Houthis have currently taken over Yemen, as their president is in a type of house arrest by Saudi Arabia. Iran's involvement are through them supplying weapons to the Houthis, as they are at a proxy war with Saudi Arabia. A proxy war is a war instigated by a major power which does not itself get involved. Here's the hypocrisy of it all. The UK is one of the largest suppliers of aid to Yemen. I visited my local town of Stroud to talk to Labour MP David Drew. So, as a Labour MP, what are your thoughts of the trade deals that the Conservative Party has been doing with Saudi Arabia?
I really worry about any trade deal with the Saudis at the moment. Until we can sort the situation out in the Yemen, I think the Saudis should be basically given a very clear steer away from any deal, particularly where armaments are involved. I mean, there are allegations, and I haven't seen the proof, but there are allegations that some of the weaponry we've sold to Saudis does appear in the Yemen, and that's unacceptable. We should be trying to bring peace to that bedeviled country, not escalating the conflict.
So in January, Germany stopped selling arms to any countries that were involved with the war in Yemen. Do you think that the UK could ever possibly do this?
It should do, and again, it's because of our way in which we treat the Saudis differently to other parts of the world, including the Middle East, that we've got into this situation. I mean, the reality is you're only going to be able to bring peace into existence if you start with a ceasefire, and the way to get a ceasefire is to reduce the level of weaponry coming into the into the conflict zone, and that's something that the UK could have an important role to play in. They won't be the only supplier, because of course the Americans, and no doubt there is Israeli influence as well. We just need to be very clear that we have a role to play, and we should be stopping the arms flow.
In March 2018, protesters gathered to protest against the Saudi prince coming to the UK.
Theresa May, the opinion poll this week showed only 6% of the UK want to sell weapons to Saudi Arabia. You're not representing the voices of the British people, you're not helping the British economy, you're not using British resources to promote human rights or indeed the interests and safety of people in Britain, let alone in the Middle East.
Despite the government's best efforts to persuade us of how great the prince is, we were not convinced. Stopping arms trade to Saudi Arabia will not stop the war in Yemen, but it will say something about what the UK stands for. What if we were to lead in energy resources instead of creating arms? Or we found the money by taxing big companies? Arming Saudi Arabia is not the solution. There are so many things that makes us British. Don't let this relationship be the one that defines us.